like a breakfast snack. It's the first thing I'm eating today. Oh, thank you, Cyber. I think I'm gonna. The crows are back. I think I'm gonna. Crows move so funny. I think I'm gonna try to finish it, if not today, then very, very early in the morning tomorrow. Hello, Grave Lord. Did I read that right? Grave Lord? What's going on there? Something bad happening, Cyber? Hmm. Tornado hit downtown Nashville last night. Oh, wow. Yeah, I hope everybody's okay. Hmm. Limited Brews here. My song file got corrupted. Got backups for days, though. It says it leaves a false alarm, I guess. Why even say that, then? I'm glad you have backups, though, Babe Leader. I'm glad that the song is not killed. And Zenruko, aka Graveford, welcome to the stream. Glad that was worthwhile enough for you to come back. Hello, Cosmic C. Welcome and good morning. Cos doesn't have a song yet. Was your song over and under, Cyber? I can't remember. Okay, cool. The song's called Over and Under. was I? Whoa, okay. Really? Behind Bonneville songs? Song's so old. But I guess it doesn't really matter. What type of smoothie you got there, cause the same one I always make. I don't know if you've looked at any of my smoothie videos, but it's always the same stuff in it. Just a lot of fruit. Is it Kanapka? Kanapka? I don't wanna butcher your name. Cyber, since we were talking about that chord progression that I made last night on Instagram, I want to show where it came from. So it came from the really long chord progression I was talking about. How I talked about how I like mine the chords from a longer progression to come up with a more simple progression, especially for like housey type music. So for this chord progression that I made like 2 strings ago, that loops from there. I took hold on. I took that movement and I moved this chord up to that chord. It's the same chord, it's just moved up. So, no, sorry. Took that chord and moved it up here. And I was like, where can this chord go? And so I added there, there. So it's only 3 chords now. And then I took this same movement and I put it here instead. Sounds kind of weird. Sounds almost like out of key or out of tune. And it technically is in a different key from this one. This one. So the chord progression for that song, which I'll play in a second because I know for a lot of people that are going to be in the stream, except for Cyber, don't know exactly what I'm talking about. But the chord progression goes. I was basically trying to come up with a chord progression that could be like in the background again of another one of those housey songs. And the problem was something that I'm really bad about doing. Hold on. I didn't put enough apple juice in this. Very dense. But something that something that is like a problem I have occasionally, I mean, anything can become a problem, right? Is I don't listen to a lot of music for inspiration. I look at a lot of visual stimuli for like inspiration. So I'll usually like watch a film. I'll go to a museum and like look at paintings, or sculptures. I like just looking at art with my eyes and trying to turn that into music, as opposed to listening to other musical acts and then trying to turn that into music. But the problem was there was a very specific sound that I knew um, came from songs that I had heard. So while I was in Japan in 2018 during the summer, there was an artist and DJ by the name of Taros who played kind of like fun, bouncy house music. She played a song called Coffee Time by Krakazat, and I loved that song. Yeah, I'd never heard it before, clearly. I heard it for the first time when I was on the Osaka date, and she actually DJ'd opening for me and Macross on the Osaka date. So I was just like chilling backstage. I actually felt really sick. I was like laying down because I felt like I was gonna throw up. Forgot about that part. And I remember hearing that song through the walls and going like, "Oh crap, what is this? I need to know what song this is." But I didn't want to like interrupt her in the middle of her DJing, so I like recorded it on my phone. And then later when we were at dinner, yeah, wow, yeah, because we went to go. Anyways, later we went to dinner. And I played the video for her, and I was like, "What song is this? Who is this?" So she told me, "Oh, that's Krakazat. That's Coffee Time by Krakazat." So she gave me a link to the song, and then that song kind of got tied into a lot of my memories, specifically of Osaka, not so much of the entirety of the Japan tour. But when I sat down to make music inspired by my trip in Japan, I made the song Olympus, which does not at all sound like Krakazat. It sounds completely different. But there is a sound that I'm not necessarily going to limit to Krakazat because it is a pretty popular sound and an easy sound to make. Well, I won't say easy, but simple. Simple as far as the amount of ingredients it has. And it's kind of just a very, very shuffly house drum pattern or beat. And then jazzy chords. I know that's very, very vague because anything really can be a jazzy chord if there's enough notes in it, I think. But it's like jazzy chords and like a shuffly house beat. And I think that the character in that combination lies in that you're giving the people, whoever the listener is, pretty complicated chord structures. But you're also giving them a very, very easy to move to beat. So it gives the people this really weird lens to look at. Sorry, not to look at, but to experience the songs through. This can be done in a lot of different art forms. You can take, for example, in visual art, I'm not a visual artist, so bear with me, the visual artist in the stream. You can take really complex themes and techniques, but you can frame them in a very easy to digest way that makes people not necessarily understand the more complicated stuff. A really good example of this is claymation. If you look at the way a stop motion or claymation film is made, like step by step, it's very, very complicated. Hello, Diz, welcome to the stream. But it's very, very complicated. No, Krakazat. I'll spell it in the stream in a little bit. A cyber. I will in a second, Rose. By the way, I'm trying to drive a point home really quick. So if you look at the making of a claymation film, it is very complicated. All of the things that they are able to accomplish with just clay and like little miniatures and figurines is wild. But when you're looking at the movie, you're more so focused on, I don't know, Jack Skellington or James and the Giant Peach. You're looking at what's happening to Kubo, this very like cartoonish, childlike narrative plays out. And you're not so distracted by all of the minutia, especially how complicated it could be. The same thing happens with the kind of jazzy house stuff. When you're given the bouncy house shuffle beat, that's what a lot of our bodies first identify in music. I mean, the layperson typically will identify rhythm and beat because that's really what you move to. You move to a rhythm, and a rhythm is typically the most repetitive part of music, right? Like you can play a complex chord progression, you can play a wild melody, but typically it's going to be played over a rhythm that repeats over and over and over and over. So usually that is the first thing that our bodies and minds will identify in a song is the rhythm. So if you give somebody a very simple rhythm, they can latch onto that. And while they're latched onto that, you can kind of throw any wild, complicated stuff at them within reason as long as they have the sturdy foundation of the rhythm. A lot of jazz, like bebop jazz songs, will do this. I mean, people could even say that bebop jazz does have a complicated rhythm. Sometimes it does, but a lot of times when you listen to bebop jazz, a lot of times, while one of the instruments, whether it's the upright bass or it's a sax or even a trumpet or a clarinet or a guitar or a piano is going all over the place, the drums will kind of maintain a steady beat that the listener, even in a jazz context, can kind of grab onto and like steady themselves while the more complicated stuff comes at them. Said all that to say that I was trying to come up with a chord progression like that, and so when I came up with this chord progression, it just goes on forever, and I was like, that is a good complicated jazzy chord progression, but when I went back and I listened to some of those songs, I realized that my chord progressions were too long. How can I take the chord progression and still make it jazzy and somewhat complex, but not like 13 chords long? And that's how I arrived on that. Ooh, I can hear it in my head. I do love it. I'm gonna. We're at minute 20 here. At minute 45, I'll go and show you guys the song that I'm referring to that I made last night. Leanna's not here, so I can't play double Lutz. Easy Door's not here, so I can't play 78 Downtown. But I can play Flight Plan no matter who's in the stream. The Wood Bleeder says my progressions going for like 8 bars tops, and then my brain's like, time to cut it off. Yeah, you have to sometimes. Sometimes there's a time and place, right, to have really long chord progressions. I usually put them in bridges. answer your question. On and his influences, because I started watching Samurai Champloo and I love his stuff. Ooh, I watched Samurai Champloo. Good show. Also, I do like the music that he made for it. What do I think about him? I'll say just his music. It's very chill. That is what I think about Bass's music. I mean, I don't know if that's so much his opinion as it is maybe just an overt fact. Very chill music this man makes or made. Oh, hi Rachel. I didn't even see you in here. I would say that the Godfather of lo-fi was actually Jay Dilla, since he came first, but Bass is also very good. Oh, hi Anwar. I have no idea what I'm gonna do with this EP actually. I mean, release it hopefully, but the more I listen to it, and the more I keep making it, the more I'm confused by it and what my trajectory is after this and during this. Oh, thanks, Lumbe. Hmm. That song feels like so long ago. It's not even a year old. It feels like 10 years old sometimes, you know? I think because of the mental state I was in when I made it. Hello, Joss and Jim. Welcome back. Have you been? There it goes. There it goes. There's one problem chord. There used to be two in vanilla, and now I found it. I just haven't figured out what it's supposed to be. Oh, Josh is graduating soon. Congratulations, Josh. That's actually really cool. Congratulations, early congratulations. Are you excited? I remember the ambivalence I felt when I was approaching graduation. So I always wonder how other people feel about it. I actually just finished playing Flight Plan Cause. You were in the stream for it. What? What are you talking about? Did you like briefly leave? Because I played the entire. I played the entirety of Flight Plan. I even took a break in the middle of the talk. You didn't just get here. Does that sound like vanilla at all to you guys? Because it sounds like vanilla to me because I know what vanilla sounds like on the piano and I know what the chords look like. But from a listener standpoint, I don't know if that sounds like vanilla at all to you guys. Or at least the intro of vanilla, I should say. Wow. Wowie. Graduation. Movie Bleeder says, I need more inspiration, so I actually tried out some new music. Quick Breath and Vanilla, my current faves. Quick Breath, Quick Breath, Quick Breath. Quick Breath. No, that's closed down. Quick Breath. Oh, Quick Breath is the footwork one. I don't know that one on piano. I'm sorry. Quick Breath? Cause? No, who was talking about Quick Breath? It was Doombe. Quick Breath was me writing outside of my comfort zone for a little while, because it is mostly, it's mostly footwork, that song. There's a little break in the middle where it turns into kind of like a swing, jazzy bebop song, but the majority of that song is footwork, which is not a genre I make, clearly. The song's called Love Letters. Hello, kid. How you doing? That is footwork. I made like 2 footwork songs that I didn't even realize. That's why I did. Yeah. 2 good ways or easy ways to recognize footwork is the kick pattern, pop 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 pop, and also there's always a rim. You know the rim like side stick hit, like when you take a drumstick and instead of hitting on the snare, you hit the side of it. There's a lot of that, a lot of like fast rim work, and the kick pattern. So yeah, Quick Breath is a footwork track. Indeed. Have you thought about putting a cool overlay on your stream? Says Diz. I've thought about it. I already have the pictures and logos that I would use it for. I just want to keep this stream, the morning medley, consistent with how it was in the very beginning. And I always kind of had it this way. So maybe after 100, maybe we'll start a new stream series, and then maybe I can add stuff to it then. But I have thought about it, and it probably will happen at some point. Kit is just waking up. I'm doing okay today, Kit. Thank you for asking. Did I finish? Oh, I didn't finish Love Letters. sleepy? Nah, I'm not sleepy. This song's called Double Let's. Did I introduce that at the beginning? I feel like I didn't. Ooh. Hank. Hi, Hank. This song is called Reflection Pool. This song was named by Kid James. It's going okay, Hank. How are things going with you? Somebody says I need to learn how to make more pace music. Want a tip, Unbe? Hey, that's on topic, Sam. Jazz is always on topic for this stream. Sounds like a Warble 21st, by the way, Leona. Hey! What kind of beats, Hank? Like hip-hop beats? Reflection Pool, everybody. Yay. Okay. I feel like there was a question earlier up in the stream, and I forgot to get to it. I do apologize for that. Whoever asked it, I'm not ignoring you. I definitely am not. I got distracted by the piano. Since it happened a little bit. Techno kinda is the type of beat that Hank made. Hmm. Using a mobile app. Interesting. Okay, we've made it to minute 40. So I'm gonna go and show the thing that I was working on. Again, actually I don't need to play it on this keyboard because the keyboard that I'm gonna go to in a second has all these sounds anyway. Really quickly though, Anwar says, haven't made any beats since high school. I'm pretty much watching Omni to get inspired again. What? Is that the only reason you're here, Anwar? Inspiration? I'm sorry if I haven't delivered on that yet. I hope you find your inspiration soon. High school sounds like it was a very fun time for you. Alright, I'm gonna take my smoothie and you guys over to the workstation. Oh man, got a strawberry seed right in between my teeth. Okay, let's get the command center fired up. Oh, that's gonna bother me. Hold on. Nope, it's gonna stay lodged in there. All right. Okay, so the general idea of the song was to take a complex, to take a complex chord progression. What? What is this woman talking about? Sorry, I have my line notification still on. So I don't. So I wanted to use this. Hi, Mance. Welcome back. Mance, you're actually just in time for the production thing. Oh, never mind. You're going into piano lessons. Good luck with your piano lessons. Vastly more important than what I'm about to show people. Okay, so I had this chord progression. I'm going to play it on 1983. So it goes like this. I'm playing it over an angle. There we go. So I wanted to play that chord progression. And I was playing it on my Rhodes, my Yamaha Reface CP, which is basically a Rhodes emulator. I'm going to lower the camera really quick so you can actually see it. Okay. Wow, that is incredible. I wish everything was wireless. Got cables running everywhere. All right. So I was going to use this keyboard to get that chord progression. Sorry, I'm moving this thing again really quick so I can get the angle down. Okay. But the problem with it was that the chord progression I just played. One problem is this keyboard is just not big enough, so I can't go down that low. And so I was like, okay, I need to work in the confines of this keyboard. Also, I need to simplify that chord progression anyway. I don't necessarily want it to go on forever. So instead, what I thought about doing is moving those chords around so that they can fit. So I took this chord, or this chord progression. I'm gonna go over here actually again really quick, just because there's better optics on my white keyboard than there is on this keyboard over here. Instead of going from here, lower. I really, really do love that chord progression. Just those three. So instead of playing this chord, I just moved it up. Each note goes up one note. So to here, it sounds off. So I can't really go from. I mean, I could, but I don't want to. So I'm going to start with this chord instead, which on its own is a very pretty chord. And I was like, where can I go from there? And so I decided to go. Where did I go? I went there. So here to here. Only three chords. Only three chords. It gets a little bit more complicated the second time I do it, but I'll explain somewhat slowly. So it goes from, again, here to here to here. And then, remember before when I had this progression? It's not necessarily that I like those notes specifically. I kind of just like that walk down feel. It has a nice, like, jazzy passing chord feel. So, I was like, how can I play that, but in the context of this chord? So then I go, which is the same as, it's just played lower. So the first time I go through it, I go, and the second time I go, I was like, that's a cool Rhodes piano chord progression, but how can I take that and put it into a different sound? Because I'm using Rhodes piano for pretty much all of my music now. If you listen to Quick Breath, it's all over the place. So I have this keyboard. This keyboard is plugged in. It does sound like a Rhodes piano, but it also has MIDI capabilities. So I have a MIDI cable. You'll see the bright yellow one, and I have it plugged in to play MIDI. So if we have it on MIDI, and then we turn down the volume of the actual keyboard. Wow, okay, all right, I see you. It's a choir sound. Let me go over here. Okay, well that sounded bad, but it's just scat vocals. And so I was like, if I take that same chord progression, that same chord, and I play it over here, I was like, oh, same notes, obviously, but a different feel, especially if I'm going to be using it so that it sounds like a sample, right? So that sounds like I'm sampling a bunch of voices. And if I do that same walk down thing over here, it has a different feel. So the chord progression that I ended up playing, again, I'm going to bring you guys a little lower so you can see this keyboard with context, is... Oh, hold on. There we go. So many cables, so many wires. So it's the same chord progression I was playing up here, again, just different feel. And something that I was messing with was not just having a house beat, right? So if you have a house beat, here's a house beat over here. Here's the house beat over here. I'm gonna now show you guys the screen because the playing portion of the beat process is kind of over. So this is what the project file looks like. I'm just gonna move this keyboard out of the way. This is what the actual project file looks like. And the house beat is here. Now, if you look closely at the house beat, I'm just talking about kicks right now. I'm just talking about kicks right now. So we have this. And then if you look at the actual sequencer, you can look at the sequencer on screen, or you can look at my actual sequencer over here I used to organize my drums, but since the phone only has one POV, we're going to just look at the sequencer on the screen. So we're adding a it's called a tombo, but that it's really a tambourine. This little note's a tambourine. It only hits that one time. Now where the swing comes in, this is the important part. So I'm taking a hi-hat, a little hi-hat, but look over here. I'll show you guys the way it looks on the grid. Now if I split up the grid into fourths, you can see that, yeah, it plays on the, if I'm in like this forward part, it plays on the 3, right? 1, 2, 3. But then if you look at the 4, it's a little bit behind it, right? It's a little bit off from the final one. And that's how you're going to add that swing. If you have FL Studio, a way to do this is to go up to where it says 4 beat and to go to 1/3 of a step. And if you look at 1/3 of a step, it actually lines up perfectly with the 1/3 of a step line. It lines up in that block. But when we're in like an even number, it's off. So just remember, if you're adding a swing, it's going to be 1/3 of something. 1/3 of something. Even if you think about like waltzing, which is like a bigger swing, it's in 3/4. I don't really want to get into rhythm fractions and time signatures, but that's how you add that little swing. So this is what it sounds like together. Again, creating like a shuffle. So after you've added that, you can put whatever you want really over it that's still on the grid, like this little carpet, this extra kick. You can add some claps. You can add a knock sound. You can add a cuica. I love cuicas. Just a little whooping sound. Made popular in like Brazilian music. A lot of bossa nova uses that. But if you're going for like a jazzy house vibe, wow. The cuica is just as important too and as indicative of jazz, in my opinion, as like jazz piano are like ride cymbals. So I like to use it too, even in a house context, it still fits. And then you add the loops. And that's what it sounds like all together. Now I'm gonna go back over here to the vocal chords that I was hitting. I'm gonna show you what they look like. Hold on. So this is what they look like. Now, something that's important here is, I don't know if you guys notice, I don't know how good your like mental metronome is, but this is very clearly out of time. If you listen to it close enough, they're not hitting at a good time. They're either slightly early or slightly late every time you look at them. So even if we zoom in here, you can see like some of the notes are slightly late, some of them are early, some of them are on time. And the reason for that is because I played these by hand and I had them only to snap to 1/4 step. All that's just fancy jargon for saying that I'm playing it out of time on purpose because I wanted to have that human feel. And when I sidechain them to the drums, a lot of that human unquantization is going to become, I won't say undetectable. It'll still be detectable, but in a good way, in the way that when people are usually reusing samples, this is what they want the sound to be like. There is actually a very old practice, because somebody brought up Nujabes earlier. There's a very old practice in trying to make samples sound old by like adding like vinyl crackle to them, adding tape delay to them, adding some warbling and detuning, adding time distortion, so that you can make it sound like it is truly an old sample that is being, sourced from something. Because if you look at or listen to a lot of those old jazz records, they're not playing exactly in time. So if you line them up to a grid on Fruity Loops or Ableton or whatever you're working in, they're not exactly going to line up like a robot. It's going to have that human, wonky, like loose feel. So I leave that in, especially if I'm trying to create the illusion that this is a sample that's coming in. And once I work on this song, especially after today, when I give like another 8 hours into this song, it'll be clear what I'm trying to do with the um, introduction of a sample, right? The introduction of a sample. I have another song that kind of has a bossa nova feel that does the same exact thing. Um, but back to the drum orientation. I'm adding the drums now to this. If I go back even far enough, I have it set to an automation thing that's going to put the cutoff down, so it's going to gradually fade in. And so the since I have this down here, what I will eventually end up doing is compressing this all to its own file. So this is going to be like scat vocals, right? Like that's the scat vocal chord progression that I've decided on. Later, I'm going to end up recording extra vocals to go with it, right? Like I'm gonna record like my vocals into this mic here, this guy. I'm gonna record extra vocals to go in it, like scatty, jazzy vocals, kind of like the vocals that I have on Union Station and Spring Street, I believe, are the other one that has kind of scat vocals. I'm gonna add in my own scat vocals. I'm gonna add in like an upright bass, like piano, and when this sample starts coming in, I want it to sound like it is an excerpt from an actual like Brazilian jazz, bossa nova, South American kind of groove. I want it to sound like it's an excerpt, like a sample from that song that's just repeating. And that is why the being slightly off time, being slightly like having a wonky key will be very useful in that. Because once I add the kick and the house beat, it's going to be ducked under it anyway, just like it was in this. If you think back to the song that I played, I want to say this was in yesterday's stream, but I have a song that's currently untitled, but it starts with the same thing where I played out notes on the keyboard and I built what ends up being a sample. Um, I sample what I ended up playing and then I resample it again to give it kind of this Filter House vibe. Cyber's gonna remember this one because Cyber did name check it as being Filter House. I'm just gonna play a really quick version of this right now so that I have a little bit of context because I know some of the people in this stream weren't in yesterday's stream to see this. But I'm doing the same thing now. I'm just doing it with a new chord progression. So in this song, the jazz sample. I'm saying sample in quotes mostly because it's something that I made. It's not like I took an old jazz record. So the drums that I organized for it. Hold on, let me unmute that. There we go. The drums that I organized for it are there. Now it's okay for the drums to be a complete loop because again I want this to sound like a sample. I want this to have a lot of fancy human articulation to it. But when it comes to the vibraphone that I put over it, if we zoom in on the vibraphone and I set the lines maybe to a quarter beat, you can see the lines, right? You can see the lines, and if you zoom in, you can see that I'm not exactly playing on the lines. I'm playing after them. This one's slightly before the line, this one's slightly after the line. The point is, you're creating that human feel of rushing or lagging behind a beat. And so once I add a bunch of instruments, all of them lagging and rushing to their own degrees, it sounds like a human arrangement. Goodbye, Anwar. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope you have a good birthday. So even when I add in the guitar, which is also off, it still has the ensemble feel like it was played by humans. And so when I add in the house drum therein, it's going to be ducking underneath the house drum, which is going to kind of erase a lot of those inaccuracies, but not completely. What it's going to do is it's going to duck all the inaccuracies, making them still sound human, but make them sound like a sample underneath the house beat. And then at that point it becomes a sample. So I end up taking all of this, the guitar, the Rhodes, the bass, the vibraphone, and the drums. Did I post this to my Instagram? It's in my Instagram stories, but I'm pretty sure that stories what's the word? Expired by now. It's not on my Instagram feed now. And then once I take the entirety of the composition and I compress it down here, this entire, let me just play this without the drums and everything. If you look at this green thing, this is the same as the initial sample that's up here, the thing that I actually played on my keyboard. I just take the cutoff really low, and if you look really closely, I've chopped it. So I've chopped it here, I've chopped it there to give it that more sampled and kind of chopped and screwed vibe. Something to keep in mind throughout all of this is that if you take a if you're trying to create samples, I saw somebody, I think it was Sam earlier in the stream, saying that they after they're kind of finished recording something, they always snap it to the grid. I also do that depending on the type of sound I'm trying to create. Right, if I'm creating a lot of electronic, it's supposed to sound electronic and it's supposed to have that vibe. I am going to snap everything to the grid. In fact, half the time I'm not even playing that stuff. If I'm trying to make it sound super electronic, I'm getting my mouse and I'm clicking out the notes. Sometimes I'll even play the notes just so I can have a visual representation of what they look like. And then I will take my mouse, I'll fix all the velocity so it's the same. It really just depends on the type of sound that you're trying to get. And a lot of times, when you think about humans playing stuff, humans, obviously, we're not robots, so we're not going to play on a grid. And something that has become really, I developed a curiosity for it, so it became important to me over time, but it wasn't something that I focused on as a producer. People got really into lo-fi and people got into like sampling. A lot of people were doing sampling, and I don't I I don't like I don't like the idea of stealing art from other people. Yeah, I know this is a very nuanced topic and conversation that I don't have the time or energy to dig into right now, but I don't want to steal from other people. When it comes to, hey, you know what's a good sound? Because a lot of our sounds now are built from samples. Lots of genres. It's not just hip hop anymore, right? Sure, we have hip hop, we have lo fi hip hop, but then there's also genres like future funk. There's genres that really were born out of like that vaporwave feel where people were like sampling 80s music, people were sampling even 70s music, people are sampling jazz over here, people are sampling disco over here. And I was saying to myself, I like the feel of a lot of these sounds, and there has to be a way to make these genres and these sounds without stealing from people or without lifting samples from something somebody else made. I want to look at a song or listen to a song or see a piece of work at the end of it and go, I made this. This was a thing that I did. This isn't something that was kind of this weird quasi non-consensual collaboration from some other artist that has no idea. Um, Really quick, because I did not listen to the new Green Day album, so I can't, I don't have any opinions on it at the moment. Um, I apologize, but when it comes to building samples, I started thinking to myself, okay, if I want to make a lo-fi hip hop record, or if I want to make a quote unquote future funk record, what do I need to do? So I started listening to the music and going, okay, obviously it's sampling a city pop song. Obviously, this is sampling a jazz song from 1973, from 1965. It's sampling something in there. And so instead of listening to future funk or listening to lo-fi hip hop or listening to any of those genres that regurgitated the old sound, I will listen to the old sound. So I'm listening to a city pop record now. I'm listening to a lot of city pop records going, what's going on here? Okay, we have the brass there. We have some strings in there, really flourishy strings. We have chords that are jazzy, but not very complex. Stuff like that. And so, my experience with those records, my experience with the city pop records, my experience with the jazz records, because lo-fi hip hop is sampling a lot of jazz, was Omni. I don't need to Omni as an artist. I don't need to learn how to make future funk. I don't need to learn how to make lo-fi hip hop. I need to learn how to make city pop, and I need to learn how to make jazz music. So if you listen to Signals, which was essentially a jazz EP, there's songs on it like Love Letters. There's jazz songs on it because I was focusing on that sound. I was like, I can make this sound if I focus hard enough and I spend enough time here. I can make this sound. So I made that sound, and the very next year I made Let Lovers, which is a lo-fi hip hop song which samples Love Letters, which is just this part. It just repeats that over and over. So it's like a four-step process. If I want to make future funk or I want to make lo-fi hip hop, I want to make any genre that heavily uses samples. My best approach is to learn how to make the art in which was is being sampled. So in order to make a lo-fi hip hop song, which is Let Lovers, I first taught myself how to make a jazz song, which was Love Letters, and then a year later I went back and then sampled it. And when I found that sample, it did have a lot of the same qualities that a lo-fi hip hop song would have, not because I was getting a Nat King Cole song or because I was going over here to a Thelonious Monk song, but because I myself had played it, so it did have that human feel. It felt like a real sample because it was a real song that I was sampling. And because I am the one that made it, I was able to actually recognize and engineer all of the intricacies within the song when it came to having it as a sample. A lot of things actually happen also where somebody will have a sample and they'll go, ooh, I wish I could get rid of this sound. It kind of sucks that this is just baked into it. I don't run into that roadblock now. I mean, it took a lot more work to start up, but much as I showed you guys with that song I just played, the like bossa nova one that ends up turning into a Filter House song, if I was like, dang, I really like this sample, but I wish I could get rid of the guitar in it just for this 1 second, I can actually do that. I can go into the files of the original song and just mute the guitar and then re-export it as a song and then re-sample it as a tool. Lots of words, meaning nothing in the end, just meaning that I wanted to learn how to make more genres, and the genres that I was interested in were kind of built off of saying the word theft is really strong and elicits certain emotions, but just let me say it now. It's based off of theft. It's based off of taking somebody else's art and going, I could do something with this. And I feel like if I can figure out how to make the art myself and then take from myself and do something with it, you kind of become like an art mind. An art mind. Because when you think about all the songs that I've sampled, they're just songs of mine. So the fact that I sample all songs of mine, it's you can kind of just keep pulling stuff out of your own bag of tricks, which is kind of nice. Especially if you're planning on putting out a lot of music. Kit is leaving. We all are. This is the end of the stream. But thank you so much for being in here. Appreciate you. Thanks again for naming Reflection Pool. Um, it's a better name than I would have come up with. Um, it is like a puzzle. Umbe Bleeder, sorry I didn't see your comment earlier. It is like a puzzle. Yeah, it's theft. It's theft. But I didn't want to steal. I knew that I didn't have to if I didn't want to. And so just studying genres and trying to figure out what's going on. If you study sound, there's a way that you can make it. I think that sampling, it's fine. And somebody brought up Nujabes earlier in the stream. Nujabes has some really good tracks, but for me personally, I know that all sound was all these sounds that we're making were accomplished by somebody, right? It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and you order French fries. I don't know who's going to a restaurant and ordering French fries. But I wish you wouldn't. I wish you would. But you go to a restaurant, you order French fries. I've been to a restaurant, I've ordered French fries. And I used to always look at the French fry and go, man, I wish I had a deep fryer because I bet I could make some dope fries. And then I remember looking at crinkle cut fries and I'm like, how do they even make these? How do you make a crinkle cut fry? Turns out if you go on Amazon, there's a crinkle cutter. There's like a little thing that, it's just like a blade, but it's like all squiggly. And you just, you can crinkle cut fries. And then once I figured that out, and then I figured out, oh, you just put fries in hot oil. Why can't I just fill up a pot with hot canola oil and then put it on the stove? And then put fries in it. Why can't I do that? And then I did it. And then I realized, oh, this is actually really easy. And it actually tastes better when I do it than it does at the restaurant. I think it's just that. It's just that. Everybody has the ability to make their own fries. I think that people either are a combination of lazy or uninspired, or they're just like, it's just so much easier to go and get fries that are pre-made. So somebody could look at lo-fi hip-hop and go, if I learned how to play piano, and I really studied jazz and I came up with my own way of performing and writing it, it could be great. But I could also just take a John Coltrane song and pitch it down and put some hip hop drums on it and call it a day. And then say, like, my biggest influence is Nujabes. I don't know. Something to think about. Anywho, we do need to go over some news because we are running a little bit over. Not as over as I thought I was going to be going. Whenever I step over there to Fruity Loops, it ends up being a very long stream. I have 2 new EPs out. One of them is called Ego Death, the other one is called Quick Breath. You can find them on Bandcamp, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Google Play, Amazon MP3, Tidal, Groove, Deezer, Pandora, Napster, and YouTube. We're on YouTube right now, so if you check out any of those songs, they might be accompanied with a music video that I shot for them. I shoot little music videos, very, really small, like inspired ones on my phone sometimes for by tracks. So most of the Less Stream songs, as well as the song that I'm playing right now, feature videos that I've shot, either in LA or abroad. Dang, Hank got the orange extract from scratch? Hank, I've been thinking about starting to zest lemons. I've been in a few people's places that are all about the lemon zest, and I've been inspired. Culinarily, not musically. Yeah. Sometimes you can think they do have fry technology that isn't available to you. I've made that mistake a lot. When it comes to song creation, I remember I used Fruity Loops for a really long time, and then I was listening to other people's music at the same time, you know, electronic music like Calvin Harris and whatever. And I remember thinking to myself, well, yeah, their music sounds good because they have like fancy, rich people, serious, professional gear. I'm just using Fruity Loops. And then I remember somebody telling me, I don't remember who it was, maybe Maddion or something like that. Somebody telling me that Maddion made his music using Fruity Loops. And I was like, wait, they're using the same thing I'm using? Then what's my excuse? Why is my music not good? And then I realized my music wasn't bad because I was using inferior gear. My music was bad because I wasn't taking myself seriously. I was trying to use my gear as an excuse to not be skilled. It's like if somebody's like not trying to play basketball because they have the wrong shoes. Anyways, have some merch coming out. I've got t-shirts, I've got stickers. I have some shows that are happening. I'm not allowed to talk about them at this time. And the streams happen here on YouTube every morning at 9 a.m. You guys are on time today, so thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you everybody for being respectful to me and polite to each other. I hope you do something cool today. It's Tuesday, and that means it's $2 Tuesdays at Pizzanista. So I'm going to be at the pizza parlor. I'm filling up on some inspiration juice. I'll catch up with you guys on Wednesday for the 85th morning medley. Abo. Nah, this is gonna get old. Boopy 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 ba 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 ba. Bum, bum.